Hey friends, today I want to talk about 3 common causes for procrastination and share 5 tips for how to overcome it. Procrastination is one of those things that most of us deal with at some point, so naturally there's a ton of content on how to overcome it. Another reason why there's so much content around procrastination is that not everything works for everyone the same way. Even for the same person, there could be a variety of tools that work in different situations. For example, when I deal with procrastination, I find that it usually stems from one of 3 things. Number 1 is a lack of prioritization. This happens when I have too many things on my to-do list and I'm struggling to figure out what to do next because everything feels important. Number 2 is a lack of clarity. This happens when some items on my to-do list are not actual tasks, but they are projects, meaning that they each require multiple steps to be completed. The third common reason that I tend to procrastinate is a lack of activation energy to get me started. This happens when I'm just not motivated to start the one thing that I clearly know I need to do. So depending on what is causing my procrastination, I will pick one tool over the other. The first 2 causes of procrastination usually require me to rework my to-do list. I clarify action items and I prioritize what I need to do. I also find that reducing the number of items on my to-do list will actually improve my productivity. As always, my recommendation is that when you hear a piece of advice that resonates with you or intrigues you in some way, you have to put it to the test. Apply it and see how it works for you. Trying things that pique your interest is a great way to confirm whether these are tools that you would like to keep in your toolbox. Or if it turns out that they don't work for you, you can allow yourself some closure and let them go. Now let's dive into 5 tactics that work for me time and time again. Be sure to try them out to confirm whether they work for you as well. Number 1, set a timer. This is a great tactic to use when I know what I need to do and just need to get the ball rolling. I prefer to use a timer that makes ticking sounds as it counts down. There's just something about that ticking sound that helps me stay focused. And when I set the timer, my goal is to work on one single task until the buzzer goes off. Needless to say, I remove all other distractions during this time. I put my phone away and I close all the tabs and applications that I'm not using related to this task. I usually set the timer for 15, 20, or 30 minutes depending on how much I'm dreading the task. The more resistance I feel, the less time I put on the timer. Keeping the amount of time relatively small makes it feel much easier to handle. After all, I can do about anything for 15 minutes. And usually, after I've spent 15 to 30 minutes on a single task, I start to feel motivated to keep going. But if I don't, I allow myself a short break before I set the timer for another 15 to 30 minutes or another sprint. Number 2, use the just one thing method. This is a method I first read about in the Todoist newsletter, but it came from a book by David Parker called The More You Do, the Better You Feel. Basically, you take a blank sheet of paper or a blank page and you write today's date at the top. Then you write one task you have been procrastinating on, just one. You work on this task and nothing else until it is completely done. When you finish the task, you cross it off your page, but you make it so that you can still read the task even though there's a line through it. Now write down the next task you have been procrastinating on and go through the process again. By the end of your day, you will have a full list of crossed out tasks and it'll feel amazing. The beauty of writing only one task on a piece of paper is that it eliminates the distraction from everything else you have to do. Also, using this method, you never put anything on the paper that you don't fully intend to work on. You write it down when you're ready to move forward with it. Number 3 is to put on some walking shoes. This is a great tip for when I'm working from home and feeling a little bit lazy. I read about this on a blog years ago, tried it, and never looked back. Something about putting shoes on, even when I'm working from home, tells my brain that I'm on a mission. I mean business. Especially if I need to do something away from my desk, maybe a chore or some other activity that requires me to get moving, I put on my sneakers or some kind of comfortable shoe that I can easily walk around in. And that simple act switches my attitude from lounging around and dragging my feet to feeling energized and motivated. I have things to do, I have places to be. Sometimes I pair this tip with another one, like turning on my timer or turning on some background music that's upbeat and energizing, and I instantly feel like more of a go-getter. Number 4, do some free writing. This is a good tip for when I feel a lot of resistance to doing what I need to do. Sometimes it's not even about the specific task. Maybe I'm having a rough day or something completely unrelated happened which ruined my mood and made me feel generally unmotivated. In that case, my go-to tactic is to write out what I'm going through. I give myself 15 to 20 minutes to write down everything that's on my mind without self-censoring. To get the most out of this, I recommend you do it longhand with pen and paper. The goal is not necessarily to get some kind of resolution. The goal is to unburden yourself of what is going on internally. So you don't have to solve the world's problems, you just have to get it out of your head. I find that when I put it all down on paper, I feel lighter and I can then work on the task I have been avoiding. Again, I can combine this with another tactic by setting a timer or starting a new to-do list. Number 5, take an activation break. I like to use this one when I have somehow gone down the rabbit hole of scrolling on my phone, watching YouTube videos, or reading articles on LinkedIn. When I engage in this mindless behavior, there's usually a moment of clarity when I feel like I really need to get it together. But thinking I need to get back to work and actually getting back to work are two different things. So as soon as the thought crosses my mind, I give myself a trigger for action. The trigger is usually a short activity that gets me moving physically and breaks the streak of scrolling. It's like a palate cleanser that gives me an opportunity to reset what I'm doing. So here's how it works. Let's say I noticed that I've been scrolling on my phone for a few minutes instead of working. Maybe I meant to answer a text on my phone and I ended up getting sucked into social media. It happens to all of us. It can be really hard to switch immediately from scrolling to working because I'm forcing myself to go from something that's easy and passive to something that is hard and active. That's why sometimes you know that you need to stop scrolling, but you can't bring yourself to do it, and so 20 more minutes go by. Instead of forcing this abrupt switch, I try to give myself an intermediary task. I pick something that is easy, pleasant, and forces me to reset. So while I'm scrolling and thinking about how I really need to stop scrolling, I'll tell myself, okay, now I will go make myself a fresh cup of coffee, and when I come back, I will start working on the task I have been avoiding. It's much easier for me to stop scrolling to go get a fresh cup of coffee than it is for me to stop scrolling and immediately start working on a budget file. Getting that cup of coffee becomes the palate cleanser activity and the trigger for what I need to do next. To make this transition even easier, I will close all my distractions and open the file I need to work on before I go to the kitchen. All I'm doing is opening the file and tidying my desktop. I usually don't feel too much resistance to doing that. That way, when I get back to my desk, there's even less friction to get started on the work I need to do. Some other palate cleanser activities I like to use include grabbing a glass of water, taking a lap around my house, grabbing a quick snack, walking to the mailbox, taking a bathroom break, etc. But these are always really short activities that require me to stand up and walk away from my desk for a minute. So these are my 5 favorite go-to tactics for when I feel stuck. Sometimes I'll use a combination of them. So try them out and see if they work for you, and if you can, report back. I'd also be curious to hear about any other tactics that you use to fight procrastination. So please leave a comment below. As always, take good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.